Hello there and welcome. This is, as always, Mikhail or Michael speaking, and before the video starts, I want to say thank you all who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal or Super Thanks. I really appreciate your support, so thank you friends and have a blessed day. Today's video I will start with Avdiivka frontline, where within the last few days, and especially within the last few hours, situation for the Ukrainian forces turned from bad to worse. As a result of successful offensive operations conducted by the Russian forces, the third line of Ukrainian defense was successfully penetrated and Ukrainians were put on the back foot. As you can see, village of Novobakhmutivka was completely captured by the Russians. Those news started surfacing a few hours ago, and just recently it was confirmed. You can also see that Russians significantly increased their overall presence within Ochertine village, successfully capturing its city center. The situation within Ochertine requires more clarifications. At first, reports implied that due to massive and highly successful Russian attack, Ukrainians were sent on the run and left the entire village to the Russians. However, as time went by, more clarifying reports were made. After all, it seems that the claims of Russians completely capturing this village were only partially true. Either way, we are 100% sure that Russians captured the city center, as you can see here on the video, and with it, gain an important foothold within the city proper. Those territorial changes were also depicted by a pro-Ukrainian map, and here they are as follows. At first, Russian attack achieved those territorial gains, with those territories coming in under their control, but almost immediately went on the next attack across the rail line in the direction of city center and successfully acquired those positions, with these territories coming in under their control as well. Not stopping at that, Russians continued their push, and as a result of that, were able to advance within the city once again, capturing those territories in the process. Here, you can have a better look at it. Generally speaking, most sources, both pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian, as well as neutral ones, had found a consensus on where exactly Russian territorial gains stopped. As for right now, Russians are currently attacking further on in attempt to capture the city completely, with Ukrainians actively pulling up more and more reinforcements in attempt to stop Russian advance. So far it seems they took defense within this factory here, and within this what would seem to be a warehouse. As you can see, the town is not that big and mostly consists of residential buildings that are 2 stories high at max and do not provide that much of a defensive capabilities as a concrete building would. So it is safe to assume that the residential areas of the city will fall to the Russians relatively quickly. But the storming of fortified factory, fortified warehouse, school and soccer field would require more effort. So again, in conclusion, as I speak, storming operations are conducted, Ukrainians are pulling reinforcements in attempt to stop Russian advance, but it seems they are unsuccessful in that endeavors. Not going far away from Ochertine, let's discuss situation in Novobakhmutivka. As you can see, Syriac maps have depicted this town as a full Russian capture. If that is to be true, this is how much territories in total Russians captured within the last 24 hours. The capture of Novobakhmutivka by the Russian forces shouldn't come as a surprise, as for the last 2 days, Ukrainian forces found themselves extremely isolated from their main army group and seriously lacked in combat capabilities. So after Russians started their attack in the direction of Novobakhmutivka, they quickly left the village and retreated to the village of Solovyove. Interestingly enough, those territorial changes were also covered by the pro-Ukrainian map. For example, this was the situation of yesterday, and here is the situation of today, with those territories coming in under Russian control. So as you can see, Ukrainians too acknowledged those Russian gains. The importance of this capture cannot be underestimated, as it will now serve as a supply hub and a staging point for further Russian attacks in the direction of the village of Solovyove. Then, with the fall of Novobakhmutivka, situation in Berdychi, which as you can see is nearly captured by the Russians, will also disintegrate for the Ukrainian forces. With the fall of Novobakhmutivka, Russians effectively solidified this front line, which will allow them to attack to the flank and rear of Ukrainian formations defending within the remaining portions of the village, but also on the many open fields and force lines. With this happening, Ukrainian forces will have no choice but to retreat from Berdychi, leaving the village to the Russians. And if they are not to do that quick enough, they will find themselves in a very tough situation. With the fall of Berdychi, Russian control over Semnivka will be absolute. If the things will continue to develop as they are developing now, within the few days we can expect Russians capturing Ochertine, initiating the battle or even fully capturing village of Solovyove, and successfully increasing the buffer zone around recently captured Novobakhmutivka. with the front line be looking something like this, you can see how it basically overlooks this entire front, endangering the entire Ukrainian army group fighting in this entire area. If Ukrainians are to fail at stopping Russians in those endeavors, we can expect the collapse of Ukrainian second line of defense with relative ease. Then from here, let's go further to the south and discuss the situation within the town of Krasnogorovka. Within the last 24 hours, Russians greatly increased their pressure in the vicinity of the city, further expanding their foothold within the town. And here is exactly how much territories Russians captured within the last 24 hours. As you can see, they have successfully captured this small residential area to the north of this rail line, as well as expanded their overall control within this portion of the town as well, and successfully crossed the rail line and established another foothold to the west of the said rail line. As you can see, most of the battles are currently ongoing within the residential area, which are usually quite easy to clear, but the difficulties for the Russian forces will come in the form of this massive factory in the center of the city. As usual, buildings within the factory are constructed out of good quality cement, and there is no surprise about the fact that Ukrainians heavily fortified this factory complex. And I'm sure the battle for this factory will determine the outcome of the battle for Krasnogorovka. Ever since Russians started an offensive operation in attempt to capture this city, multiple heavy bombs and never-ending artillery barrages were conducted in attempt to destroy, or at least damage, Ukrainian fortifications and strongholds within the factory itself. For example, here on this video, you can see work of Russian artillery systems. However, the concrete buildings proved to be sturdy enough to withstand multiple shots, which you can see on the video. Now, in order to ensure relatively quick and easy capture of this factory, I'm sure for the next few days, Russians will continue heavily bombarding this factory with the use of aviation and artillery. But as of right now, most of the battles are happening within residential areas to the south of the factory in this small area and the remaining portions of the southern outskirts of the city. Despite Ukrainians continuously counterattacking in attempt to stop Russians at advancing, it seems that those attacks were fruitless and Russian advance was not stopped. Now, at this point in time, not only do I want to know your opinion on this whole situation, how fast do you think Russians will capture this city, but I would also like to ask you to consider supporting this video. A like, comment, and of course a subscription if you haven't subscribed yet will be more than enough. Thank you for your considerations, as well as for your opinions, and let's move on. Now, to the very last, let's move to Bakhmut and quickly discuss the situation here. Generally speaking, Russian offensive here continues across the entire front. Here, Russians are attacking directly in the direction of Chasiv Yar, continue to fight within Bogdanivka, which was reported to be captured by the Russians, but as you can see, Syriac maps had not updated it, fought in the direction of Grigorivka, attacked from Ivanivsky along this road in the direction of Stupachki and Chasiv Yar as well, but so far there are no territorial changes in favor of the Russians. However, it seems that recently Ukrainians launched a small-scale offensive in this area by attacking in between villages of Ivanivsky or Krasne and village of Klishivka. As a result of those actions, Ukrainian side reported those territorial changes. So here they are, as you can see. At this point in time, it is quite hard to see the potential of this attack due to the fact that Russians are overwhelming Ukrainian forces across this entire front line, and it doesn't seem like the situation will change in the near future. With this, I end today's video. Hopefully it was to your liking and was informative enough. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day and always remember, Russia will be free and great.